was not required for ordination, but John, because he had the MA, was qualified to teach at this time, or pastor, either one. During his undergraduate days, towards the end, around 1725, Wesley began to journal, which was another of the Puritan holiness tradition's techniques or methods to find real holiness. He examines his inner life and tries to take his spiritual temperature, if you will. So this is a mild turn towards seriousness around age 20, 22. And he's searching for an assurance of salvation. And so he reads in various traditions, Calvinism, Lutheranism, trying to find clarity on why is it in his search for real holiness he has no sense of apprehending that holiness. So journaling, watching his inner heart, and watching his time to be accountable for that, these attributes he learns from the Puritan writers, and this helps him project forward what his mother's emphasis on inner holiness and mysticism predisposed him to. And it reminds us that all of us have to cast around and do some reading theologically very widely from within our home life and our family life, the traditions that we've inherited when we come to seminary, and also to expose ourselves to wider currents of theology. Wesley, like many of us in seminary, often become confused or have some conflict between our own identity as it's growing away from our parents or building on our parents and their traditions, and how we relate to the new relationships of theology that we are exposed to. At the end of 1725, choices need to be made, vocational and professional, and Wesley, under his mother's influence, presents himself for ordination. That's what's going on up here. The father says, don't be deceived. If you can do anything else, do it. Don't go into the pastorate simply for false motives and for power. Reflect on the ground of your hope. But as usual, John listened to his mother more and begins to read deeply into Thomas à Kempis in preparation and meditation, sort of a reading course to help quicken his understanding. Reads in Pietism and Holy Living authors. He says here in reflection before his ordination, Thomas à Kempis has such an unbelievably high idea of the Christian life. Should I also follow Jesus so radically? That's what he says in German there. So with this Puritan moralism and his own mysticism, search for holy living, attached to his need to express all of this in doctrines that he can express to the Church of England, John Wesley deepens his search for holiness. He reads The Imitation of God, Thomas à Kempis, and Jeremy Taylor's Rules and Exercises on Living and Dying. And these writings, despite his turn towards grace after Aldersgate and justification by faith, these rules and exercises of living and dying and imitation of God through Christ, the Puritan tradition lives on curiously with him in a kind of tension. But he still hasn't found what he's looking for, like you two sang about. Still haven't found what I'm looking for, that holiness. But he's committed to the ministry, and at this time he's also balancing off the possibility of serving in the church. He's ordained deacon in 1725 and ultimately becomes an elder or presbyter in 1728. He serves as a curate, sort of a assistant to his father, in a small church called the Root Church, W-R-O-O-T Church, from 1727 to 29. After he's been elected fellow or teacher, professor at Lincoln College, Oxford, and I want to map those out for you at this time. In trying to discern his vocational path, John's father Samuel appoints him to the Root Church, St. Pancras Church. This is an outstation of Samuel Wesley's Epworth Parish, and here is the picture of that church, which still stands today. This is the only Church of England parish that John Wesley ever serves for 2 years. It's essentially a type of student appointment in which he discovers his love for academia more. He'd already been, in 1726, elected to be a Lincoln College lecturer, and by 1729 he's recalled by one of his deans at Lincolnshire, and he goes willingly to serve as an Oxford teacher for the next 6 years, from 1729 to 1735. Again, vocational discernment's important in his life, and he feels the need to balance, or at least try, both the student appointment and academia. You can see here that he goes from Lincoln, from Christ Church here up to Lincoln College, and begins his teaching. This is the quad of Lincoln College, where John Wesley lives, where he goes, and we want to take a little shot at that. In John's ecclesiastical history, written in 1781, retrospectively, he looks back on 3 real strong developmental periods, what he calls the 3 rises of Methodism, and his time at Lincoln College, Oxford. He names his first rise of Methodism, the first rise of Methodism, from November 1729 to October 35th, about a 6-year period of ministry. You can see here, these are the rooms in which he lived. As an Oxford non, you're required to live in these essentially dormitory quarters. You're required to live a celibate life, and for the exchange of teaching and living in this kind of quasi-monastic status, all of your room and board and a salary is paid, so it's a rather comfortable monastic life. You can see here, Christ Church is where he left as an undergraduate. He goes around the corner to Lincoln College, and this is the map here, and these are Wesley's rooms right here off of the front quad. You can see here on this line drawing, this upper right hand corner here are Wesley's rooms, which are still maintained today. Now that Wesley has made his turn to Oxford at Lincoln College, let us conclude this introductory session, and we will return for our third video, and we will look in depth at what about his time at Oxford led him to see this as the first important phase of his shaping and the rise of Methodism. In the next section, we will look at the 3 rises of Methodism, and you'll want to know something about each of these rises for your test. Thank you for your attention, and look forward to you in our next installment.